House knows well, following 9/11, when we were in the courts trying to get people out of secret. One thing that's different now is the legal infrastructure is so much stronger, and everyone out here on the streets knows that we cannot hide in the face amount of repression. We will be fighting in the courts and fighting in the streets to bring Mahmoud home and prevent this level of repression from spreading to many others, as the administration has threatened to do.
Why not argue the merit of the court today, sir? The judge invited repeatedly.
Thank you, Vahid. Now we'll hear from Professor Joseph Hawley, an associate professor at Columbia University.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Hawley, Howley, and I'm an associate professor of classics at Columbia University. The last time I spoke at a press conference was April 18th. That day, police officers in crowd control gear entered our campus for the first time in decades and carried off dozens of students who were and quietly encamped on one of the enclosed lawns in front of our library, threatening no one. As I watched this unfold horror, I was asked to speak at an emergency press conference alongside Mahmoud, who had just been asked to negotiate on behalf of the encampment. It is always dangerous to speak in public for Palestinian rights, safety, and freedom with your face uncovered and your name declared. Be sure you will be harassed, doxxed, terrorized. People will try to get you fired from your job. For speaking here, I will receive a new round of death threats, slander, complaints to my employer. When I step down from remarks to protect me, attempts to misrepresent my words. And Mahmoud, as a student negotiator, took these same risks and many more. Mahmoud is a man of decency, honor, and kindness. He has distinguished himself in his work as an advocate and negotiator, as committed to peaceful resolution of difficult situations. He is a consummate diplomat in his disposition and his character. What the Trump government is doing to Mahmoud is seen, unreasonable, unconstitutional. So why do they think the Trump administration is betting Americans will happily look the other way as one more Palestinian is victimized here on American soil? They're betting that when you hear Mahmoud or the word Palestinian, the parts of you that make you a thinking and rational person will switch off, and you will believe first about him, and you will turn a blind eye to these grave violations of his rights. And after what I've seen over the last year and a half, I'm not sure they're wrong. Anti-Palestinian groups have spent all year casually letting the dangerous accusations on the community have repeated them. Don't like Sophia? Call them a terrorist and call the cops. Don't like their anti-Semitic and get them expelled. Don't like that your Jewish has a chutzpah, a free Palestine, report him for Jew hatred to a university task force. Don't like seeing a broad and smoke movement of courageous young people standing together against the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Call your friends in the government and send the feds to their door. As an educator, it disgusts me. Anyone who wants to be taken seriously in association with a university would deal so ignorantly with language and truth. But more than I'm ashamed as a Jewish person that this slander has found currency in some parts of my own community in service of the racist and anti-Semitic Trump agenda. Trump's claim that this atrocity combats anti-Semitism is insulting. We will not take lectures on anti-Semitism from segregationists and neo-Nazis.
Thank you.
We will not allow a white supremacist president and his party to claim Jewish safety as they shred the Constitution and spin outlandish legal theories to justify the suppression of dissent and the brutalization of those who oppose war and apartheid. One of the hideous forms of prejudice toward Jews is the dual allegiance, which suggests that we Jews, because of our ethnicity or religion, have secret political commitments at odds with the communities we live in, that we are not to be trusted, that you believe the worst about us. When Donald Trump sneers at globalists, this is what he means. And when I see people unquestioningly trafficking in the wildest assertions about Mahmoud, just he is Palestinian, I hear the exact same kind of prejudice that drove generations of my own family from their homes in Europe. Anyone who spread the lies about Mahmoud that resulted in his detention should be ashamed. And if you find yourself believing whatever someone tells you about Mahmoud just because he is Palestinian or because he spoke up against a murderous war that you somehow still support. I can only implore you to scrutinize your own soul. Why are we? Because we want our friend back. But we are also here because what happens to Mahmoud could happen to any of us. They can strip the green card from a lawful permanent resident. They can do whatever they want to a citizen. If you're waiting for permission to think it's a crisis, here it is. Right. What has been done to Mahmoud goes far beyond whether you agree with the cause of Palestinian liberation. Where exactly are we in the poem that begins, when they came for the communists, I did not speak out? Well, they've already come for the asylum speakers, the migrant families. Now they've come for Mahmoud Khalil. It's not a very long poem. So how far down the list do you think you are? I've been proud to stand as a Jew beside Mahmoud Khalil and call for a free and just and peaceful Palestine. It is my honor now to stand before you and call on what remains of the United States government to do the right thing and free Mahmoud Khalil. Thank you.
Next, Joshua Draytel from the law firm representing Mahmoud.
This is also on behalf of Amy Greer in our firm, who has handled this case and will continue to handle this case, but unfortunately could not be today. And the principles at issue in this case are, of course, very important, and I'll lay that out here and in court. But important as those principles are, a commitment to the case, and Amy's commitment to this case is also about the human being, Mahmoud Khalil. He is a person who is loved, who is respected, who has earned that through his conduct and his commitment to his community and to all of us. We thank the people beyond the cameras who are here for their support. We appreciate it, Mahmoud appreciates it, and ultimately the rest of this country and the world will appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Professor Nadia El-Hedge, Professor of Psychology at Barnard and Columbia.
My name is Nadia El-Hedge. Last name is Adelhaj. So how did we get here? How did we get to the point where Mahmoud Khalil, a mild-mannered and thoughtful Palestinian political activist, a legal permanent resident of the U.S. who has been charged, let alone convicted of a crime, can be picked up outside his home and shipped to a Louisiana detention center? Secretary of State and the President can name him as the first of many who will be rounded up and deported for what is, in fact, political theft. This is a witch hunt of an not seen since the McCarthy era. Then the archaic threat to America was the alleged communist Jew. Now it is the allegedly anti-Semitic Palestinian. But lest the Democratic Party feel self-satisfied as the Republican administration takes a sledgehammer to our basic constitutional rights, this did not begin 2 months ago. Beginning in the fall of 2020, most Democrats at local, state, and national levels joined in the line of Palestinian and pro-Palestinian demonstrators. They labeled the movement anti-Semitic as operating in support of terrorism, ignoring the reality on the ground which these students were responding. The urgency that you saw, the rage even of student demonstrators last year, was driven by a commitment to the urgency of the situation, the need to stop the genocide in Gaza. The Democrats, however, crawled into bed with MAGA Republicans quite clearly in congressional hearings that began in the fall of 2023, when university presidents began to be called before the committee, as if the hearings were actually about anti-Semitism. The party of Charlottesville, the party of Nazi salutes and support for Germany's neo-Nazi party, the AfD, is not concerned with anti-Semitism. And no Democrat that has aligned with them can be taken seriously on that front. Insofar as you, our Democratic politicians, continue to refer to Mahmoud Khalil's speech as abhorrent, presumably while defending his right to say what he does, that is, presumably while defending his right to be abhorrent, you are part of the problem. Stop demonizing student activists who are demonstrating to save Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank from ethnic cleansing and total annihilation. Stop replicating the crime of McCarthyism. And here I mean not just the criminalization of certain forms of political speech. More fundamentally, I mean stop replicating the crime of demonizing an entire group of people as dangerous, as a threat, as abhorrent even. Then it was Jews, now it's Palestinians. Free Mahmoud now and stop the witch hunt against other students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Next, I'd like to bring up Shaza Abu Dalal, one of the staff attorneys at CLEAR, who will be reading a statement by Mahmoud's wife. Hi everyone, my name is Shaza Abu Dalal, that's SHEZAABOUSHIDALLAL. I'm a staff attorney with the CLEAR Project and one of Mahmoud Khalil's attorneys, and I will be reading a statement on behalf of Mahmoud Khalil's wife, who does not wish to be named. My husband was kidnapped from our home, and it's shameful that the United States government continues to hold him because he stood for the rights and lives of his people. I demand his immediate release and return to our family. His disappearance has devastated our lives. Every day without him is filled with uncertainty, not just for me, but for our entire family and community. Loved ones are struggling with the pain and fear of sudden absence. And yet, we are not alone. So many who know and love Mahmoud have come together, refusing to stay silent. Their support is a testament to his character and to the deep injustice of what is being done to him. Thank you. Thank you, Shaza. We're going to bring up some of Mahmoud's legal team to answer questions from you all. I will be calling on people and letting you all know who will go first. Okay, questions?
How long can they hold it? Let's say say he doesn't, like, what is sorry.
Me too. Sorry, you step back.
I'm always confused. Okay, how long can they hold it?
We are seeking to bring him back. We're seeking to have him released. And we're going to do that whether it's in federal court or immigration court. There are limits to how long a person can be held in court. But frankly, that's our limit. We are going to ask for him to be released as expeditiously as possible. In any court that will be released.
Why couldn't that be done today? And can you just respond to the government's claim that this is about his views not being aligned with national security? Can you legally speak to us about that?
Yeah, the government has basically admitted that they're punishing him for his views that are contrary to the government's views. And that's just an obvious piece of authoritarian logic that we cannot tolerate as long as we live in a democracy. It's totally unacceptable for him and for others.
The government is cover any other jurisdiction in either Louisiana or New Jersey, but not New York. Why?
The government is claiming, and this is really a question the government. The government's claiming that because at the time he filed a habeas corpus petition in this court, he was already in New Jersey, he had already moved as part of their plan again to move him 1,000 miles away from Louisiana, to take him away from his court, from his lawyers, from his support network. And you know, of course, the goal of all of this is that the side will speak in defense of Palestinian lives and rights. And clearly, as you can see by the thousands of people who have come out today, this past week, that is backfired. Keep silence. People are not out in any way, shape, or form. This idea that the movement to support Palestinian lives is somehow driven and supported mainly by foreigners and non-citizens and marginal, clearly false. It is an American movement, and of course there are non-citizens and green card holders as well. But it is mainstream, as you can see, the diverse crowd that's not just but campuses for the past year.
Right.
The
How is
government says that he organized protests were distributed. You guys address that.
The government's position is that Mahmoud has views that are similar to Hamas, namely that Mahmoud believes in human rights, the end on genocide. And as the White House and the Department of Homeland Security said, he had been arrested and potentially removed. So it's their disagreement with his view, not any remotely scintilla of security threat that's driving this. Again, it's a question. It's not about security.
What would you say to all the?
I would add that whatever Myers spokesperson, that is certainly the government's position before. And so that's the thing to keep in mind, that the White House spokesperson says a lot of things that are unsubstantiated, not just on this case. I would pay attention to what they actually put forward in court.
Can you
From
speak
his
to what would
Mahmoud
you
is doing? How he's been in Louisiana?
I mean, as you can imagine, these are very difficult circumstances. Mahmoud and his wife, the last thing they expect for something like this to happen, they had reason to expect stability. He's a lawful permanent resident. She's a U.S. citizen. They're about to welcome their first child next month. That's what they were thinking about, not this scenario where he's abducted. 1,000 miles away. This government. Like that, Mahmoud, of course, is a fighter. He's been a prominent advocate for Palestinian rights. He's in good spirits in these circumstances, and he looks forward to
The questions about the next steps. We will be filing amended trading colleagues from the ACLU and the New York Civil Liberties Union amendments that substantiate in more detail the nature of his detention, and after we'll do an expedited schedule to have the court hear his demand. Detention is unlawful and that he be released. We will also be this court on the proper and at a large over the next week.
What would you understand legally why he's been without
Yeah.
It's two different things. What the government is explaining.
Yeah. As far as that, a provision that basically says that if the Secretary of State determines a citizen poses a serious risk of like accident or that person be prosecuted by Congress to be used to silence dissent. in other words, times that, for example, folks, people who have interfered with democracy in their own country, foreign officials, those are the scenarios where you see that law. It is not intended to silence or any other speech the government has. For that reason, this case is not set the precedent that the government wants it to set, whether the federal court or and you already know just by looking at it, that it's not having the effect that the government wants it to have on people's solidarity with Palestinians.
What would you say to students who are afraid to protest?
The question that he sent an email to the president of Columbia University the night before he was arrested and detained to basically put the university on notice that he's feeling unfair by the university and that he's worried about detention by ICE and actions by activists for his life and well-being. That is accurate. I did send that email to the head of Columbia University, and I think this is an important question. This is a university that has spent the last year talking about its duty to protect students and keep them safe. But in a scenario where numerous students are being put on Columbia's campus, Mahmoud Khalid has been effectively disappeared by government agents. Again, his property. The university is remarkably.
Student at Fordham, one more question, please. Student at Fordham, question, please. Sorry,
speakers to come to me or Jen here. And I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank all the people who are out there proud listening. And I want to remind everyone that the family has asked for privacy at this time. Thank you.
Sorry.
No.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this press conference. My name is Jen Nessel, and I'm with the Center for Constitutional Rights. Today, you'll hear from clients and attorneys in the case Defense